were talking about the rules of anonymity. And from what I can tell, the only thing I'm not supposed to do is use my last name and specify a recovery program that I'm in. But I can say what somebody else did. I'm a big Brian Setzer fan. I like rockabilly. And I saw him being interviewed by Dan Rather. And he's been sober a long time, this Brian Setzer. And Dan Rather goes, "So do you go to things?" And he said, I'm going to probably bleep that with my little dog whistle or something. And he goes, "Yeah, we don't really talk about that." So he kind of said yes, but it was like he didn't want to lie and he didn't want to tell the truth. Okay, so let's run the numbers. How long have you been sober?
I've been sober 38 years. Came here in 1985.
Were you a one and done? Did you come in and it's
One and done, thank God. Yeah. Came here and to my very first meeting, and I was sold. This is where I belong.
When you say here, do you mean the Friendship Club?
No, this was in Alexandria, Virginia.
I see.
I had been attending meetings of another 12-step program, and it was there that I saw people in recovery for the first time, and I thought, oh, maybe I can do this. I don't have to die, because I was going to die. Ended up going to a counselor who said, if you don't quit drinking, you'll die, and I ended up going to my first meeting that night.
Wow, impressive. I was dragged in logging chain, saying, I don't want to stop.
I'd seen so many people die.
Yeah.
The lives they lived if they didn't die was more uglier to me than dying. It was just going on living in the way I'd seen my family live and other people.
Because I got sober at 32, so it was sort of theoretical what would happen if I kept going for another 10 or 20 years.
You know, my story is a little different from Natalie's because I woke up in a drunk tank in Hanover County, Virginia.
Classic.
And was my second time. When I came...
I'm sorry, your second time waking up in a drunk tank?
Yes.
You're hard-headed, Bruce.
Well, you know, this sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. And when I came to that morning, as hungover as I was, I knew I was done.
Yeah.
I knew I just could not do this anymore. That was September 26th of 1981. So I've been sober 41 years. Came to a meeting that night. My then brother-in-law, who was 3 months sober, was living with us.
Really?
And he took me to
3 months?
3 months. And he took me to my first meeting. And I haven't had a drink or a drug since. And the next morning, I looked up my older brother, and this was in the D.C. area. My brother lived in D.C. He was 6 years sober, and I looked him up the next morning. Found him at the church, and after the service, we went back to his apartment, and he gave me a big blue book and a 12 and 12 and some basic instructions on how to stay sober, and started taking me to meeting.
Wow, there's a lot of meat on that bone. Is he still among us? Is he still,
No,
okay?
Dusty was in 1989. He was 12 years sober, and he died of AIDS. And his, of course, his mantra in sobriety was to say please in the morning and thank you at night. And his panel on the AIDS quilt says say please in the morning and thank you at night. So he took me to a lot of meetings, and we were very close right up until the time that he passed away.
That is something. I got chills. I want to circle back around. Did you say 1981?
Yeah.
Okay. It's 2023 at the time of this recording. Anything you want to say about the difference between somebody walking into the 1981 to compare to today? Does it seem...
I can't speak for anybody else. I just know that, I just knew I was done. Now, the first meeting I went to happened to be in a very, very tired strip mall club with all the cast-off couches, and everybody smoked in those days. And there was a man who was sharing that night who led on a topic I've never heard since, and it was happy asses and sad asses in the program. And,
okay.
And I stayed sober anyway, kept coming back. And now there was a brother between my oldest brother and I who had served 2 tours in Vietnam and had had trouble with alcohol and drugs before he went, and certainly had them when he came back. And he was in and out of sobriety from the first time the Army put him in treatment in 1975 until he got sober in 1999. and he was sober. He was killed in a hurricane-related accident in 2020. He and his wife both, 21 years sober at the time. So, it's never too late. It's never too late.
I've sponsored a few guys who have said, well, the first time I got in trouble for my drinking was in the Army. I'm like, yeah, you're an alcoholic. We're not supposed to say that, but at least back in the day, you had to push your luck pretty hard.
Yeah. He was actually in the service for 14 years, flying helicopters, and he got passed over for promotion twice. He was a chief warrant officer, and he was administratively discharged simply because, he had a Bronze Star, he had a Purple Heart, just no good conduct medals,
Did y'all meet in the rooms?
We met in the rooms of that other 12-step program.
Okay.
And I was introducing Bruce to a friend of mine at the time.
With intent or just to
With
say
intent,
hi?
Absolutely. She came, when Bruce walked in the room, she looked up and said, "Oh, things are looking up around here." So we had coffee afterwards, and I was to introduce Bruce to Kathy, and next thing I know, Bruce and I are exchanging business cards. I was about 30 seconds sober, no, about 30 days sober, really. I had to tell my friend Kathy that I was going out with Bruce, and she said, "Uh-oh, I had established ownership."
Oh, dibs.
I didn't know I was chattel.
Look at that. You might want to step out of the room, Bruce. We've got some stuff to talk about. Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah.
Well, the proof is in the pudding. You guys have been together a long time.
Yeah, we've been...
But Bruce says it's not 13 stepping them if you marry him.
Oh, okay. It's like getting the record expunged.
Yes.
Right, exactly. Yeah, she was a whole month sober before we went out the first time. And a year later, we got married, and that was in 1986. So we've been married now for 37 years.
Fantastic. Do you know, I don't, any recovery couples that can beat those numbers? Been married longer than y'all have?
Arnold and Dusty.
Arnold and Dusty, by a couple of years.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
I've got a friend who was my roommate in rehab, and he's got 10 days longer sober than I have, and so it's always, he mansplains to me. He's a good old timer, and I'm a newbie.
Yeah.
Do you work each other's program? Do you say, hey, I think there might be a night step in your future. Does it ever go there?
No, I could, in 37 years, actually, we've kind of been together 38 years, but in all that time, and we made that a ground rule when we first started dating.
Talked about it.
We don't, yes, absolutely.
How did that conversation go? What'd you say?
It was easy to agree that we both had sponsors different from each other, and we were not to mess in each other's programs, period, end of story. Never have, that I can think of. He once described me as the canary in the coal mine, I will say.
And I know what that means, but in this illustration, what does it mean?
Well, it usually has to do with, you'll have to ask him. He's the one who uses the expression.
Well, she will sometimes very thoughtfully point out some behaviors that might be examined. When I get over the resentment, I generally, take it to heart. But I think we both learned a long time ago that the best time to give advice, especially to a spouse, is immediately after it's asked for.
Oh, thank you. Okay, you said sponsors. Are you the lucky ones that have had the same sponsors for a million years?
My current sponsor took me to my first meeting.
Okay.
Now, there have been periods when we first moved away from the Washington, D.C. area. That's where I got sober, where we both got sober. When we first moved away, I had a different sponsor. But for the last, I don't know how many years, she's my sponsor again, and still. She's coming up on an anniversary this month. I think it's next week, and she will have 52 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And in fact, she Zooms into meetings here.
From Alexandria.
And loves the meetings in Santa Fe that she comes to.
That's great. And now, what's your sponsorship story?
I went for the first couple of years without an official sponsor. I was doing my program, And that worked for almost 10
As,
years.
as Bruce sees it, I've seen that book
Yeah.
in the stores, yeah.
Yeah, for almost 10 years. I mean, I didn't manage to drink. I went to a lot of meetings, and I was about 3 years sober when I got my first regular sponsor, what I would consider a real sponsor. And I've had several through the years. It's just worked out that way. So I can't point back to, the guy who took me to my first meeting. I'm a bit more of a hard head than my wife. The self-reliance gene that kicks in a lot. So I have not been as diligent about sponsorship as my wife, but I've always had a sponsor along the way. Yeah.
Yeah, my deal has been geographic. When I moved from town to town, I'm 30 years in. There have been a few moves in there, and I was, until my current sponsor, way over 10 years. And by the way, he's an attorney, and I had just moved back to LA. I moved back and forth from Los Angeles a few times in my life, and so I moved back to Los Angeles. He holds an AA meeting in his conference room in his office, and at one point I said, "Hey, can I meet you in your inner sanctum after this is over?" And he said, "Yeah." And I went back in there and I said, "Hey, I've moved to Los Angeles permanently again, and so here I am in Santa Fe." But that's what I said then. I need a sponsor, and would you sponsor me? And the first thing he said was, "Gee, are you thinking about drinking?" I had 20 years sober. I said, "Absolutely not." And he goes, "All right, I'll take you. You seem easy." I was honest. And he didn't want to work that damn hard. He goes, "Yeah, I figured you'd been pinched." I was like, "What are we talking about here?" "No." And he said, "Oh, anytime anybody in this meeting says they want to meet me afterwards, they want free legal representation. Something happened since the last meeting." I said, "No, we're good." My experience has been, my sponsorship has always been really fun. Sad ass, happy ass meeting. I'm on team happy ass. My sponsors have always cussed like me and had a, disgusting sense of humor, never pussyfooted in any way with me. And it's been fun. Man, when life isn't fun, when recovery isn't fun, that sucks. And my sponsors have always been guys I love to get on the phone.
Yeah.
The only exception I would say in my heart is I want them to think highly of me. The issues you take your sponsor don't make you look very cool. So
Yeah.
what are you going to do? It's like the stakes are so high. It's life and death or something very like it for me. And so I'm accustomed to bringing them my embarrassing shit. It doesn't sting as much. But yeah, I would not have missed the fun part of that for anything. I'm glad. I've talked too much. How did you said the person that still sponsors you took you to your first meeting? Can you untangle that a little bit?
I had gone to this first meeting when I called a woman I'd seen in the other 12-step program and on a Saturday morning and asked her to take me. And
Like a double winner type deal, as they say?
yes,
Okay.
yes. And her sponsor was Stacy. And Stacy and Shelley took me to my first meeting. Now, I was so sick that I did not know how sick my first sponsor was, Shelley, the nutcase, but Stacy was her sponsor. And I used to always go to Stacy and talk about stuff. And when Shelley really twisted off, I asked Stacy to be my sponsor. But the two of them took me to my first meeting.
Okay.
And then Stacy was my sponsor like year 3 or 4, something like that. And I've been in touch with Stacy. And even though she lives in Virginia, and I've often had a sponsor here in Santa Fe, but the last, I don't know, pre-COVID, I don't know where, but only Stacy. But we've always had, for many, many, many years, I don't even know how many years, we've had a scheduled every third Tuesday telephone conversation, even if nothing was going on, but we also talk in between.
Great.
For all that time. And I still describe her as the most spiritual person I know. But like your sponsor, who's, she tells it like it is. And once I was leaving Virginia to move to Florida, and I had several sponsees, and they would say, "Who should I get to be a sponsor?" But not Stacy. No, please don't ask me to go to Stacy. I mean, she's a hard ass. Always has been, always will be.
Okay.
Tells it like it is.
Right.
Looks like a little harmless little old lady. Hard ass. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, she stays pretty close to the middle of the road. You know, I mean, stays between the phone poles and likes people to be in there with her.
Yeah.
Now, she uses a phrase often, a pearl beyond price. And she is a pearl beyond price. I mean, she's really, as Natalie said, probably one of the most spiritual people I've ever met. Just a delightful woman. Natalie alluded to the fact that we had lived in Florida. In 93, we left the D.C. area and we moved to Orlando here in 01. So
Here is Santa Fe.
Here being Santa Fe.
Mm-hmm.
And we had come the summer of 01. It was hot and humid and just, well, hotter than hell in Florida. And we had bought a casita here the year before. And, well, we go to, we keep trying to find ways to stay in Santa Fe. Let's go spend 3 months and see how we like it.
Land of entrapment. Here I am.
Yeah, we have a casita. Let's just go spend 3 months. We came in the middle of July of 01, sold our house to a friend of ours in the program who'd said, if you ever want to sell your house, we made the obligatory phone call and he bought the house. In the 3 months we were here, we'd been here for 2-week visits before, but nobody wants to make an investment in, an emotional investment in a transient, right? They just don't.
Okay.
And so when we came and stayed for 3 months, we got to know people got to know us. And one of the things that really impressed both of us was the quality of the sobriety in Santa Fe. The people that were suiting up and showing up and doing the deal, that had time, that were sponsoring people, that had sponsors, all the things that, are consistent with, living a sober life, they were doing here a lot. And we really liked that. And it was one of the big draws that brought us back to Santa Fe when we returned to Orlando. We just said, let's pack it up and move out.
Well, it gets in your bloodstream, this thing, coming to meetings. The old saying is, how long do I have to go to those? And the answer is until you want to. And now you can't imagine your life without that. And I'm a fan of Zoom. COVID hit like a bolt of lightning, and this is not a large town. It's not Los Angeles or someplace like that where there's billions of meetings. Like my meeting, singular, disappeared. What do I do? And I went, I think there's such a thing as online meetings. Nobody had used the word Zoom. And I'm talking the bomb drop for me on Friday the 13th, March 13th, 2020. Like a job I had went poof. And it was in show business, and LA shut down, Santa Fe shut down, Albuquerque shut down. I thought, well, I can't go without meetings. Just what do I do? And within, I don't know, 48 hours, the Zoom meetings seemed like they were everywhere. I didn't know how to, I'd done Skype for this and that and FaceTime for family members, but the Zoom routine that's now all second nature to us, I just love it. I'd hate to, Zoom's not going away. I had heard someone point out that never, I'll be bleeping that. Never caught fire, maybe coincidentally, until telephones were in every home or almost every home. So is that chicken and egg? I don't know, but it's kind of true.
Interesting.
And I can get my sponsor on the phone in 3. I'm not trying to sell you on telephones. I just mean the fact that somebody who's known me well for 20 years and has been my sponsor for 10 years, I don't have to give them a lot of backstory. Right, Guess what happened to me yesterday? He goes, oh, well, we know you, so let's talk about how this plays into your weird story. Instead of, having to start from scratch with a new physician or a new shrink or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, I belong to a business networking group that meets every Wednesday worldwide, 10,000 groups around the world. And the week after the
you don't have to identify, but are we talking like a Kiwanis Rotary type situation?
This is BNI.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Week after, and people met in person in 92 countries, 10,000 groups every week.
Really?
And the week after the 13th of March, we didn't have a meeting here in Santa Fe because of COVID. The following week, the entire organization was on Zoom worldwide in 1 week.
And still is.
Well, our Santa Fe meeting is most of the groups in the country have gone back in person. each group could make their own decision, and we still meet on Zoom. But yeah, Zoom has been a huge benefit. I mean, you look at one of the nice things is that Stacy comes to 2 meetings a week in Santa Fe.
I love that.
From Alexandria, and she loves the meetings here, and she's brought friends. You know, our meeting last Friday, we had 2 people that happened to be from Alexandria that didn't even know each other, live a mile apart. We had somebody from Maui, you know, who still had internet, who dialed in. Somebody from Austin, Texas. We had somebody in Chicago. You know, we had had local people.
This is the podcast. I'm pointing to a cork stick pin map of the United States behind me. By the way, West Virginia bupkis. We've only got about 5 states with nothing, so make a call. Send this to your
And
friends.
Mississippi.
Yeah. And I have no idea. We haven't spent a dime or lifted a finger to promote it, but I don't know, about 15 countries now, and thousands of downloads, and
Really?
yeah.
And how do we find it?
Oh, High Desert Sobriety Podcast.
I did hear that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Easy. And so I don't know, word's getting around some kind of way, and they're not telling me, but it makes me very happy and
Cool.
yeah. And
So how do you know that the people have?
where do I get those numbers?
Yeah.
My it's Buzzsprout is the company I happen to use
Right.
to, you know, I edit this thing and throw it up, and they put it on the RSS feed, if you know
Right.
what that is.
Yeah.
We're on, you know, at this point, yes, we're on Apple and Google and Spotify and so on. But really, if you just Google anything, it takes you right there. You know how it is.
Mm-hmm.
You say, you know, what time does my favorite little restaurant close? It just tells you. It doesn't put you through a bunch of headaches anymore.
Right.
The free flow of information. Sometimes I forget how easy it is. I'm still stuck in a sort of a phone book mentality. If you look for High Desert Sobriety Podcast, you'll find it.
Yeah, a number of years ago, somebody told me about there are 2 guys in Iceland who have nothing better to do because, you know, there's a lot of alcoholism in Iceland. And these 2 sober guys, they were going to take CDs and tapes of recorded talks, and they were going to make MP3 files out of those and post them online.
Mm-hmm.
Website that's up today, xa-speakers.org, and you can download hundreds of talks.
Right.
Sort of a precursor to some of the other technology things we have, but
That's
you know,
right.
just one of those internet-based things that made this content available to people all over the world.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And one of the ingredients in our recipe here is 30-minute episodes, and we're kind of getting there. So I don't want to walk away from this opportunity to talk to a couple that's been together. Tell me again, how many years?
We've been together 38 years.
38 years. And
Been married 37 years.
And that's you were kind of a newcomer-ish?
I was 30 days sober when we first went out.
Got it. So
We have 80 years between it.
Okay.
When you add it all up, it's 80.
and it's all been smooth sailing every minute of
yeah.
every day.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Nothing but what are the puppy dogs and
Yeah.
butterflies or whatever it is.
Well, I don't know if there's a lie detector app I can feed this audio through, but if there were, you want to address that bullshit when things have gotten difficult? What? And I'm thinking of through the lens of recovery.
Life happens, right?
Absolutely, life happens. And, you know, we've been through, you've heard both of our stories. We've been through ill health, we've been through bankruptcy, we've been through family deaths, we've been through life.
Yep.
You know, I can't say that we sit down and say this is kind of what we need to do. We both know of each other that we live a spiritual life. We live up by spiritual principles. And that's how we get through whatever it is without any real discussions. It's
Right.
just kind of, that's what Bruce
It's
does.
second nature.
Yeah. It's just how we live. Do we have our screaming matches once in a while? Yes. But, you know, when it comes to the big things, it's what we do.
Big things easier than little things?
I have, you know, big things hurt longer, or, you know, the health issues go on for longer. It just, I don't know that it's easier or not. And I just know that, you know, in my world, it kind of all happens in God's time and in God's way.
I have a personal philosophy that emotional energy is like money.
Yes.
It's a capital resource.
Currency. That's
There's
right.
only so much of it.
And time, I would say too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I can't say that it's 100%, but I'd say a significant fraction of that I only invested in places where I get a return. When there are disagreements, I can get a resentment as quickly as anybody, but I also know that it's, there's no upside to this. There's no point in hanging on to things. I'd say we also, early on, we did workshops and things in how to fight fair.
You too?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
We both went to an inpatient program for codependency independently.
Inpatient. Wow.
5-day inpatient. And then we did a 5-day inpatient program as a couple.
Having done it individually.
So we've done, and we both, probably between us, spent close to 20 years in therapy.
Some of us are sicker than others.
But I mean, it's all consistent with trying to develop the tools to deal with life when it happens in a constructive way.
And I would add too, this is a sweeping generalization, but strikes me that the people each of us looks at who are struggling in years 10, 12, 15, 20, whatever the year is.
Sobriety?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Those people very often are having issues that relate to family of origin stuff.
Yeah.
And God was good to us, and that's what the whole codependency thing is what we both went through in therapy, individually inpatient treatment, and then couples inpatient treatment. So we did a lot of work right off the bat. And I have to say that as onerous as all that sounds, wow. I mean, neither one of us had to deal with that shit, in year 15 or 20 or 30 or whatever. We've been through it, and, we get to help other people.
We didn't arrive with the tools we needed to have a successful
You're
relationship.
talking about 2 sick puppies here.
But
a
in
lot
the
of
first
work.
10 years, we did a fair amount of work individually and collectively around those baggage issues that are the core of almost every problem that a couple has.
You're speechless.
I'm listening. I don't learn much when I'm talking. What does codependency mean to you, Bruce?
Well, I think it's live and let live. It's taking care of my stuff, not getting wrapped around the axle about things that aren't, there's only 2 kinds of business. There's my business and none of my business. That's sort of a glib, statement.
Oh, it's going in the teaser.
But it's true. I mean, it's learning about boundaries. It's learning about taking care of myself without being an asshole, without being cruel about it. We've all seen people who that I went through this certainly when I started doing my work, where I had my belligerent good health phase. Where I had to tell you that you're ugly because I wouldn't be being true to myself if I didn't. We all go through that phase.
People love that.
Yeah. And then,
friends.
get to a point of compassion and understanding rather than needing to be, right and defending myself. I can still go to that place, but it doesn't last near as long and it's not near as ugly as it once was.
Natalie, I'm going to let you end this thing on a rising note of hope.
Rising note. That's too bad you used that adjective. I was going to say that for me, it was really important in the beginning because I came here with all the baggage and the ugliness that everybody else has in their own makeup. But I learned very quickly I didn't deserve to be treated the way I was treated. And I took on the behaviors I took on that got me drunk, got me eating pills, all of that to get away from reality.
Yeah.
But learning that early on, I got bad programming is kind of the expression and vernacular of the day. That was really important for me.
Oh.
And, I don't go to that place that I hear a lot of people talk about of how bad a person I am or how awful I am. It's just lets me know that I'm okay, who I am and what I am most of the time today. Not just most, a large percentage of the time.
All right, I'll drink to that. I love you guys. Thanks for giving me your time and opening up like this. I think the world of you too. And, I've been looking forward to this, so thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you very
asking.
much.
Appreciate it.
Let's roll the music.
And